Thank you so much for staying tuned to TMI. I'd like to really appreciate you for taking our time to sit down, watch, and of course to listen to what we have to say. It's no longer news that exit classes are meant to resume, this week. Talking about primary 6, GSS 3, SS 3. And people have been talking about it. Is it wise, is it smart for schools to reopen, especially with these classes that really need to write what we call a promotion exam, the exit exam to the next level. Amidst coronavirus pandemic, over 40,000 infectious cases reported in Nigeria. People are like wondering if we should do this right now. Is it not going to lead to an increment in the COVID-19? We'll talk about the spread in Nigeria. With me here in the studio is the Secretary of Medical Women Association, Kimdelin Okonji. Welcome to TMI's on this edition, Doc.
Good morning.
I appreciate your coming. All right. And of course, I have another member also of Medical Women Association of Nigeria, Edo State Chapter. I can only remember the name is just Ibadim, right? Sarah May Badim, welcome to TMI Sunday's edition. They are all in the medical field. Let me start off with you, Dr. Okonji. What do you feel about the process reopening of these schools? Some of them will open in August 3rd, while others will open in August 4th, just for them to start off studies, not for them to get set for the examination. Do you feel too comfortable with this arrangement?
So, the reopening of schools is inevitable. The government has said it, we have to do it. However, prior to this reopening, there are several things we should put in place, which I believe the government should have already started doing that already. People should be aware that this coronavirus pandemic is real. People are dying all over the world. They are dying of coronavirus. So you are going back to school. What have you put in place? How much do the students know about this coronavirus? How much do the teachers know about coronavirus? The best thing to do is prevent it. Because with them coming together in schools, they are going to be congregating. And we all know that the fastest way of spreading it is by all of us being together. So what do they know about it? Are they educated about it? How are we preventing it? Simple hand hygiene, face masks, maintaining physical distance prevents the virus. So if the correct measures are put in place prior to resumption, then we can say, okay, fine, let's resume. Now, it's one thing to put the measures in place, it's another thing to maintain them. Because not only are day schools reopening, boarding houses are reopening. Are they going to maintain these things? Are they going to keep maintaining physical distance? Are they going to keep washing their hands? Are they going to keep wearing face masks while talking to each other? The teachers and the proprietresses and health educators, so to speak, should also remember they have to keep going to the schools. Let us flag cases. We have to have a very high index of suspicion, meaning that anybody that comes down with fever, cough, any of the common symptoms, sore throat, should quickly be isolated before this case can spread and now turn one case into 1,000.
And not turn one case into 1,000. Now she has raised doubt. When you talk about reopening of schools, from what she said, the government already given them a go-ahead, so to speak, and we all have to comply. Do you see this increasing, talking about COVID-19 in Nigeria? She talked about boarding houses also in some schools because it must be in effect. You get to see students, they just can't do without coming together to gist, to chat, to congregate, so to speak. Will they be able to follow the laid-down principle in the fight against COVID-19?
Well, my opinion on this issue is simple. I think given that schools should reopen, like the government has said, it means that we must learn to adapt new behaviors. It's funny, but we don't behave like this typically in the ways we're now being expected to behave. We see each other, we want to hug each other, touch each other. Oh, where have you been all this time? How did you fare? And so on and so forth. And children also act this way. And it is also more important for us to note that we need to put these measures in place, and it's not just putting them down in place on paper. We need to actually do them and teach people to do them and teach people why they are doing them. A lot of people don't understand the whys. I've been opportunity to work during this pandemic, being on the field, and some people don't really know why. All they know is they said we should wear our masks. They said we should wash our hands. And it may be a bit surprising because there have been a lot of messages in the media on COVID-19 over the last few months, but people still need to continually hear these messages and understand why. Now, that said, we're talking about children here, primary 6, JS3, SS3. We should note that the fear is not only for the children, it is for the wider community as well. Because when you ask children to come to school, they are coming from their different homes, their different communities. They are bringing together everything they have within the same setting. Now that this is inevitable and has been recognized as such, it's really important that schools understand this. The teachers understand this. The school pupils and students also understand this and are willing to put this in practice. Even adults struggle, frankly, with these basic behavioral modifications because it's not the way we natively behave in this society, and much less children. So there should be constant reinforcement of these measures. The cases will rise. Cases are bound to rise. We should understand that cases going up when schools reopen is something that will more likely happen than not. Now, what we need to do is how do we respond? We should be able to detect these cases.
We are coming to that, how to respond. Before we talk about that, she talked about cases will definitely rise because of the opening of schools for these exit classes. Now, if this is true, is it a smart move for the government to give the go-ahead for these schools to reopen?
Now, that question is actually a tricky one. You say, is it a smart move? Well, my opinion does not necessarily count because the government has said reopen. So whether we want them to reopen, whether we don't want them to reopen, they will reopen.
But is it a smart move?
At this time, worldwide, most people are reopening. We have all been away. Over 1.5 billion students have been out of school. And let's know that in our environment, there are many people who do not have access to internet. There are many people who don't have access to social media. So to an extent, you may want to argue that the government has a point in saying reopen. But like I said earlier, prior to this, you have to put these measures in place. The government can't just wake up and say, everybody go back to school. Let's resume status quo. We cannot go back to status quo. We have to realize, like she said, that there are new adaptive mechanisms. Everybody says the Chinese people greet by bowing. We don't know what made them start that. We don't know what made them stop doing the whole hugging and doing the French kissing and everything. So we need to realize that there is now a new normal. We can't go back to status quo. We have said reopen, or rather they have said reopen, fine. What have you put in place prior to this reopening? What measures have you put in place to ensure that these things you have said, oh, hand washing stations, high index of suspicion, physical distancing between the children, avoid congregations. What measures have you put in place to ensure that the schools are adhering to these things? So that is my personal opinion.
And now, from your own analysis, schools in Nigeria, both public and private schools, do they have the wherewithal to really reopen? We talk about exit classes. Do they have, how will I put it now, one, the knowledge, two, the equipment, three, the discipline to follow the laid down principles in the fight against COVID-19?
Well, from my own commonplace observation, is a tall order. And the reason is simple. Many of our facilities, many of our schools were not built with hand washing in mind. Something as simple as that is lacking in many schools, and not just schools, many premises in general in Nigeria in terms of public places and public spaces. In addition to that, there is also the manpower aspect of it. We know we're talking about schools reopening for exit classes. Of course, that gives the advantage of space in the schools. A school that would normally accommodate, say, 800 students will probably have about 200 to 300 across these exit classes, maybe 400 max. So then the children can space out into various classrooms. So some schools will have enough space, But some schools, we should note that some schools already have space constraints, especially some government schools. I've been to government schools in Nigeria where I know that space has always been a major challenge. So we're talking about reorganizing here. Even though there are fewer in number, you should bear this in mind. In addition to that, the discipline. The discipline is the breaking point, because we get worn out of from some of these measures. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. This is just the reality. Wear your mask. And some people are like, look, I'm tired of wearing this mask. I'm fine. I don't feel bad about not wearing a mask. So we need to imbibe this discipline. And it actually starts with the school headship. The government first, and then the headship of the schools.
And the
all
parents.
the teachers and the parents.
And the parents.
Yes.
The parents have a very important
big
role
to
yes,
play. If all the
play.
teachers know that they should wear their masks, and are indeed actually wearing these masks, then the children will also wear these masks. It's not when you come on the assembly and you say, wear your mask, and then they peep you in the staff room or somewhere else and nobody is wearing the mask. Then why are you telling us to wear the masks? So we need to put these measures in place. In general, I don't think Nigerian schools have the capacity as such, but that's why we've had this break, so that schools can also work on that, reorganize, restructure, put necessary measures in place. And there's also room for the PTA to support and to oversee these activities, because you can't just send your children to school and you don't know how they are doing there or how they are faring there. So I think they should really work on that aspect, monitoring, supervision, and oversight functions at the school level, and also from government inputs and insights. And then the training, the teachers, the students, the pupils, the leadership of the schools, they should all be trained, not just on signs and symptoms of measures, but what to do
when it happens.
When it happens.
Yes.
Okay. Right now, Dr. Okonji, now she has raised so many points. Now, that's what we talk about trying to live with COVID-19, even in schools. Talked about parents, government, teachers. What do you think should be the strategy of these teachers to really make the students fall in line? Maybe in result of wearing face masks, washing hands, using hand sanitizers, and the rest of them. What do you think? What method do you think these teachers, proprietors should imbibe to make the students feel comfortable with all this? Because it's like somehow too new to all of us in Nigeria, not only the student right now, to everyone in Nigeria doing everything you're doing with your face mask on.
So we've heard it several times. Leadership by example is contagious. She said it, and I will reiterate. As a teacher, if I go to school wearing my face mask and I see my fellow teacher and I want to say good morning, rather than give them a hug, what do? I give an elbow shake, or I use my legs to say hello, or I wave, or do the common namaste that they do.
Indians are used
I'm
to.
telling
Yeah.
you, those are the little measures. Then, things like wearing my face mask at every time tea. Of course, I cannot wear my face mask when I'm eating, but yes, I will wear my face mask when I am teaching. I'm wearing a face mask now and you can hear what I am saying.
Yeah.
I am wearing a face mask. I've been wearing it since I came here, which is over an hour, and I am still breathing normally. Some people tell you I cannot breathe, I cannot breathe. It is not a chin mask. It is a face mask. It is to cover your nostrils and your mouth. You can breathe in it. We have both been wearing our face masks. We have been gisting since. Maintain physical distance. You as a teacher, the onus lies on you to show the children that if you can do it, you are much older than they are younger, their capacity is better. So you are doing it, they will do it. And then you have to keep educating them. Like she said, not just tell them you have to do this. Tell them the why. Why are you doing this? If I come too close to you and I cough, my droplets can get on you. Even if I cough into my elbow and I am not wearing a face mask, my droplets will get to you. True. I am wearing a face mask to prevent you from getting the virus. You wear a face mask to prevent me from getting the virus. So by wearing a face mask, I am actually showing you love. So you to show me a reciprocate this love, wear your face mask. Give me some distance. Not because I don't like you, not because I don't love you, but because I love you. That is why I'm going to give you physical distance.
And I'll also like to say something in addition to this. Yeah. You see, schools have policies, and they should be made known to all, even the parents. One simple measure schools can implement is everybody should come with a hand sanitizer on a daily basis. And this is a practical reality. Many schools are constrained for resources. They have not paid, they have not collected any fees since the pandemic started, and so on and so forth. So while they will try their best to provide, the children coming to school should also be made to have those things. Each child should come. It's a burden on the parents. It's a burden
What
on
if the
family.
parents just can't afford
As
it?
simple as
the hand
washing your
sanitizers.
hands
You
with
see-
soap and water. You don't have to buy an expensive hand sanitizer if you cannot afford it. But come to school and wash your hands. Tell the children, as I am entering into school, have obsessive compulsive disorder. As I enter, I wash my hands. Every 2 hours, I go and wash my hands. I touch something, I wash my hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. That's all. You don't have to use medicated soap. We should thank God for that.
Yeah,
You can use as simple as regular soap. Provide water. Water is everywhere. Is it too much to say put a borehole in every school?
Well, the thing is, in addition to washing your hands with soap and water, you will find that in a practical sense, many schools will become constrained. So the parents should also play their roles in supporting. Like you were
Very
talking about the
important.
issue of affordability. I think right now, people have been suffering economically and financially, but let's consider this a worthy sacrifice. If your child has to come to school, just get the child something small as this, that the child can come with to school just in case you need to use it. And then, because these are real things, we run out of water in many of our settings. Many of our schools don't actually have this water. They have to buy water now to sustain some of these measures. So the children should be encouraged to do their part. It's communal effort. Everybody has to make some contribution, has to feel the pinch here and there. So I think schools should also look into that.
Okay, now before we call it a wrap on this segment, what are your opinions to these lecture houses also that may want to come into the scene? Because some of them, they have students that are getting set to write these exams, and according to them, it's a responsibility to brush these students up. Do you think it's a smart move for the government to allow these lecture houses to reopen?
The lecture houses, I will talk from a personal point of view.
Yeah.
If you are to reopen, you cannot reopen in the same capacity which you did in the past. How many of these lecture houses can be regulated?
Yeah.
We are not going to throw it open. All lecture houses can open. No, I think we need to put stricter regulations on them. You cannot have as many students as you had in the past. If you must reopen, you are a private lecture house, so you must put all the things in place. Put all the facilities in place, have sanitizers for them when they come, have hand washing stations. If you can do everything and you can assure us that the children can maintain physical distance, because most of these lecture houses train higher students or older children. And from the little research that has been done, these older children can actually transmit the virus. Unlike the younger ones, that it is less. Not that they don't, but it is less among the younger ones. But teens and adolescents, they transmit it. These children, we should also remember that these older children will not be in boarding house, or they won't always be there. They will go home and come. We need to make sure that these lecture houses, this is where we need to have a firm hold. We cannot compromise on it. These lecture houses must put all the things in place before they can reopen.
So who are those who are those that really will be starting with responsibilities to make sure that these lecture houses, if they want to reopen, to be monitored to see if they are following the rules and regulations governing the fight against COVID-19? She talked about monitoring.
Yes, well, I like that you said if, and we're talking about regulations now. I believe that the government has a structure for regulating and for approving educational institutions in the state. I can't specifically say this is the exact channel by which they do that, but I know that schools, the State Ministry of Education should have a role in that, and even local government areas where these schools and lecture houses are located. They're usually supposed to have school inspectors, which I think that system has not been in place or been used effectively for quite a while now in Nigeria in general. But apart from that, we should know that in this COVID-19 response, the government also has an enforcement arm, using civil society organizations, using volunteer groups, and so on and so forth, even within the communities. So the responsibility for enforcement should start at community level. the civil society organizations within the communities, even well-meaning individuals in the communities can go and perform supervisory functions, oversight to see are things being put in place. And again, the issue of lecture houses reopening, we understand that, you know, they have a key role they play in preparing students, brushing them up. But health and safety takes precedence over every other thing.
Precedence over this?
Yes, it does actually in this setting.
You have to be alive to write exams now.
Apart from that, people seem to think that the issue of school reopening is scary for the children. It's not necessarily for the children. These children come from families, they come from communities, and they will transmit diseases among themselves and then to their wider community. For example, during this outbreak, I can say my kids have mostly been at home. But should they go to school, they are interacting with people who have been coming from different places. And they are also coming from somewhere else too. So safety, health and safety is a priority in this COVID-19 response. And
all right. I'd like you to advise our parents and, of course, students will be going back to school and the teachers. What do you really have to say to them as school reopens, talking about these exit classes in line with the fight against coronavirus pandemic? 1 minute each.
Okay, so I will talk to parents. Parents, the responsibility lies majorly on you to prepare your children, psychologically and otherwise. I forgot to add that there's a huge psychological impact to this resumption.
Okay.
So let the children be aware. Knowledge is power. Prevent coronavirus by simple hand hygiene. Give your child hand sanitizers if you can afford it. If not, drum it into the child's heads that every time tea, go and wash your hands. This is not the time to hug. This is the time to do the elbow greeting or the leg greeting. This is not the time to cough out into the public. It is the time to cough into your elbows. This is not the time to say, I am uncomfortable in a face mask. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Wear your face mask at every time tea. Do not share utensils. I cannot share cup with my neighbor. I cannot give you my water bottle to drink water. This is not the time to be friendly when it comes to this sharing. We can be friends in other ways, but we don't have to share utensils. We don't have to share things amongst ourselves.
Right.
So the parents, please educate your children and let them know that if they have any symptoms, fever, cough, malaria, generalized body weakness, things that look like the common malaria, please, they need to report it as soon as possible.
Thank you so much, Dr. Okonji. Dr. Badin, 1 minute.
yes, and I would like to speak to the teachers, since she has spoken to the parents. The teachers should continue to, one, imbibe these practices themselves so that they can teach the children and demonstrate it practically. Because children learn what they see, and they're not going to do what you say if you are not doing it yourself. So the teachers should ensure that they always maintain this distance, wear their face mask and other preventive measures. In addition, they should work closely with the parents, maintain a high index of suspicion. If you have any child that is ill in your class, you have to flag it off to the school authorities so that they can report to the appropriate, local government mechanisms, health centers, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, the teachers themselves should constantly give reminders on a daily basis in class. It's a practical thing. Good morning, children. We're starting off class today. Remember to wash your hands, maintain your distance, and
Keep
so
your
on
face
and so
mask
forth.
on.
And the teachers should also support themselves by,
Thank you. Thank you.
engaging with each other on this virus.
Thank you so much, doctors. I really appreciate your wonderful analysis, both of you. Well, you've heard them. Schools will eventually reopen, talking about exit classes. They're giving you some guidelines to really follow so you can fight against COVID-19 to prevent you from contracting the deadly virus or pandemic. Face masks, wash your hands, social distance. I think that will just suffice. So parents, teachers, always drum it in the ears of your words. And of course, for lecture houses, if you can prove that, well, you are ready, you are set, just go to the Ministry of Education, right? Talk to them about it, and they may just come inspect, and let's see if they will give you go ahead. I'm not saying they're going to give you go ahead. Let's see if they will give you go ahead to start lecturing students so they can get set for their examinations. All right, doctors, thanks a lot once more for coming on today's show. Appreciate your comment.